myself. What is up, guys? How's it going? This is Darren on the podcast. So today we're just kind of, I guess we're kind of just going into a series, right? Because we talked about doing one last year. We started, but we kind of stopped.
I had school and work so far away.
Yeah, it was just like a bad time, I guess, to really start a podcast. So I started one last week, and I was like, "Hey, Darren, do you just want to go back into what we were doing before?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So here we are.
Yeah.
So this is episode 2. Let me just mute my phone so there's no distractions there. All right, cool. So I think this episode we wanted to talk about, like, kind of like, is college worth it? Like, is it worth going? Like, what is the value it brings to somebody? Does it really set you higher than everybody else? Does it really give you a different standard? Does it really teach you stuff? Or is it just kind of like, is obsolete the word? Not really use. I don't want to say useful. I guess it depends on what you're doing, but like,
yeah, for sure.
It's like average now. Like, it kind of just becomes the average.
It's almost like the normal thing to do. And like, it's almost as if you don't go to college, people look at you different. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like in a bad way. It's just like, oh, like high school, then college, then your career.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like back in the day, it was kind of rare to see someone go to college.
And I think that was a thing back then, like when our parents went, right? Or if they did go, like that generation, and even the generation before that, their parents, it was like, hey, you go to college, it sets you above everybody else. Now it's just like all these jobs, these 9-to-5s, they want you to go to college, but then like in reality, like some of the jobs you just aren't going to use your degree for, or a lot of people come into the thing where they go into 40, 50, 60, $100,000 in debt, and they realize, hey, I just got this degree and I hate my life. I hate what I'm doing. And I think that's a poor way to live, because in reality, you're not going to live your fullest potential in life if you're hating your 9-to-5 and doing what you're doing, you know, and I think that's the disconnect that a lot of like youth in our age, because, you know, we're only 20, 21, you know, I think there's and this, even like the younger, you know, 3, 4, 5 years younger that are still in high school, I think that I think school and education kind of is outdated. You know, I think it's the same system that's been around for 150 years with an economy, an ever-changing world. Just like the times have changed quicker than the education has changed in the world. But not just our country, but I think the world. Now, I don't know much about other countries. Like, I've looked a little bit into it, but not a whole lot. And you know, and I mean, when you go into like where we rank in education, like we're top in like a lot of things like technology and stuff, but our education system is like not as high as it probably should be.
I wouldn't be surprised, because, you know, again, that quote that we have, it's like, are we really learning, you know?
Yeah, so the quote's by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it says, when students cheat on exams, it's because our school system values grades more than it values student learning. And, you know, that's kind of true. Like, you know, when a teacher's like, oh, did you get an A? I'll actually give you a prime example. So I think it was my second term of college. It was, what is it? English 2, writing 2, whatever. It's like writing 2, Comp 102. Yeah, Comp 102. Yeah. And we had to do an assignment, and it was like part of the assignment. It was like, I think for your final or something, it was it was give a speech, but you had to like, you kind of lecture in a sense, like you got to present, right? Basically was it was. And, you know, it was like 3 or 4 weeks to present. We were taking longer than normal for some reason, she said. And, you know, she, like, I don't know what it was, but she seemed to like target me personally by the way she would like talk to me and said, oh, do you have your notes ready? Do you have your notes ready? And all this stuff. And I'm thinking, like, you know, I don't think, like, yeah, note taking is a good thing in a lot of cases, but sometimes, like, when you speak to people, some people can't take notes and then speak from their notes. They just speak from like what's inside and what's in their heart, right? Like, so, and that's just how some people are wired. Like, I think, and I'm not done the story, but I think oftentimes like these professors and teachers tell you, oh, you got to take all these notes and You got to spend countless hours studying for this exam that in reality you're not going to really remember what was the exact questions or what you learned. Now, going back to that story, 2 or 3 weeks come by. The week before she's like, "Oh, better be ready for next week. You're going. Better be ready for next week." I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I get up there, right? First thing, I had my laptop open with some brief notes. I was kind of listening to the other people that were speaking, and trying to jot down like the way they were giving their presentation. So I had some kind of guideline to follow and just kind of put my words into those spots of how they were doing theirs. So I'm learning from others there. That's what it is. You're learning from others and the mistakes they make so you don't make them, or vice versa, right? So I get up there and she's like, "Sal, where are your notes?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Where?" She's like, "Where are your notes?" I'm like, "They're on my computer." She's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm thinking to myself, what the? Okay, it's 2020, like, or might have been 2019 at the time. And I'm like, okay. And I go up there and I start going and presenting, right? And I think I'm doing a fucking badass job. Like, I'm doing really good at this. And then she's like, uh, and going back to the notes, I guess it finally like got through. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You don't have your notes?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're on my computer." She's like, "No, no, you need note cards." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "If you don't have notes, you're gonna fail. What, you want to be a failure in life? Is that what you want to do? You want to get an F in this class?" I'm like, like, okay. I was like, I told her IAO. She's like, "What's that mean?" I'm like, "Improvise, adapt, overcome." She's like, "What, you want to improvise your entire life?" I'm like, me trying to hold back what I really wanted to say to her, because I was gonna say some not bad stuff, but stuff to like uh she wouldn't like per se, just because she was that type of person. Like, it was only her way or the highway, like those type of people
Yeah.
that are they say they're open-minded, but they're just closed-minded. They don't want to listen to other people's opinions or why they do what they do. um and she was just wouldn't let me go on. And I was like, "Look, like, and we talk about IAO, right? Like, that's just
All the time.
football and stuff like that. And now that you're coaching and stuff, but like, even like in the football field, like IAO, like, there's going to be times where you're going to have to improvise. Like, there are times where shit's just not going to go your way, and you just got to do your best and improvise that day." And that moment when she said that, I'm thinking to myself, first off, I don't know who the fuck you are, because you're not going to tell me where I'm going to be or what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do what I want to do, when I want to, and how I want to. And if I make mistakes and jump through hoops along the line, well, guess what? You're going to learn from those.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's always good to learn from other people's mistakes, but you got to have your own to truly succeed, I think. And, you're going to do things that might not be typical or normal, but, that's okay at the end of the day. And what I think what that taught me was, and this is going back to college and stuff, I didn't really learn anything from that class. I didn't learn really how to speak. I didn't really understand how to write or what she wanted to write, and that was another fucking catastrophic thing. The revised, and she told me that I wasn't being argumentative or anything, but that's kind of BS, because I like to argue all the time about stuff. So to say that was kind of like oxymoronic to say that about me, but at the same time, it's like, hey, whatever, like, it is what it is. Like, and going back to that quote there, she was so focused on, hey, you need to get an A to this class to succeed, and I'm like, no, motherfucker, you don't need that, because and I didn't tell her that, just to be clear. I'm thinking, looking back now, I'm like, no, you don't need an A to succeed. You don't need a B to succeed, because guess what? If you take 100 doctors and those last 3 doctors got a 71, they're a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Now you know what? They might be the brightest doctor, because they realize, hey, like, I might not be a good test taker, or maybe on that big final test that their family got in a car crash, they're depressed about that, but they're grinding it out, and they forgot some information, but that's okay, right? Because they're still a doctor, they're honing it in on their craft, right? They did the work, they put it in. Maybe they're just not a good test taker. That's okay, right? Like, I know I have not always been a great test taker, and I think at the end of the day, sometimes the cheating that goes on is because the teachers don't really do a good job teaching, right? I mean, I know we're around teachers all the time now, especially you, coming on board. And, I've had some of these conversations once in a while with some teachers, and like there was a teacher in high school that told me that, hey, don't go to college because there's other opportunities. And I wish I would have listened to her in that sense, because I think I jumped Miss Everett. So she
really,
yeah. So
she did
yeah.
history teacher.
So
you would expect her to be like
Yeah,
go to
so
school, be a
so it's
teacher.
interesting because it was one time she was asking me what I wanted to do in life, and right, and now I kind of ask that question to like people, like, what do you want to do? Because truth is, I don't think you ever really stop knowing what you want to do in life because you always
Mhm.
find other opportunities, and then you want
Yep.
to do that, right? So, you know, I didn't think I would be coaching 3 years later. Here I am, right? Always learning. Um, she was like, you know, don't just go to college because there's other opportunities. You know, you got trade schools and stuff like that. And I wish what I was doing now with the eBay and stuff, I started in high school because I don't know where that would have taken me
You
16 or
might not even be
17.
living
I
where
might,
you are right
yeah,
now. You
exactly
might be
right. Like
somewhere else.
I might be an influencer
You might
in
be.
Miami or California or something like that. But you don't really know. But and the thing is, like, sometimes you just got to just do stuff that yeah, you make mistakes. Like maybe going to college was a mistake because I don't really feel like I've learned anything. Like I'm gonna be
No,
honest, I went to
not at
now
all.
to 2 universities at this point because I transferred out. I think I got some lessons essentially, but I think I would have learned them anyway. And I think I kind of learned, like, especially with the whole college, that the thing I talked about. I think you learn it, kind of learned that anyway in that sense. Just because of high school. Like I don't really think high school's great for entrepreneurs, right? Mainly because it's structured in this old system of working a 9 to 5, get a good job, get a retirement plan, and you're good to go, right? Essentially, but then in 50 years, when we're at that age of retirement,
Yeah.
whatever that might be, it'll probably raise to 75 because now we're living longer than ever. Um, that might not be there for us. And you know, the parents of our generation are saying, "Oh yeah, go get this good job that has a good pension, good benefits, and stuff like that." I got a newsflash for you. I know my uncle had good benefits, you know, 9 years ago, and then all of a sudden they're not as great as they were because of regulations. Like that shit's real. So to say that now, it's really hard to predict what will happen to a market in 30 years, you know, or 20 years, or even 10 years, really, you know. I'm sure 10 years ago, they didn't think there would be a virus like this that would pretty much shut down the world, essentially speaking.
It's a whole different
Or
topic.
yeah, that's a complete topic. But again, prime example, you never really know. What do you need to say? I know I've been
All right,
talking
so
along
yeah,
here.
no, because what you're talking about is always good to hear,
Hmm.
and hearing from multiple people is always good.
Hmm.
But for me personally, I'm sure this could be the same for a few people. A lot of people could be for you.
Hmm.
But in high school, obviously, high school and college both are a great experience just to be there, not for the
Yeah.
school in itself, just the experiences, as in friends,
Hmm.
sports, whatever the case may be. And in college, you're meeting people from all over the world. Like for my school personally, St. Bonaventure in upstate New York, so many kids from different countries
Really.
that I were friends with.
Hmm.
So there's good experiences there, but both high school and both college, education wise, it's really sad when you grow up because I think you start to realize how much of a joke it is and will always be. I feel like in personal, I
What
feel like
you saying?
high
Like
school
school
and
and
both
college are kind
high
of a
school and
joke?
both college, the way that you have to approach it as a student and a teacher now is a joke. But the thing is, what I think, my opinion, maybe it's different from yours,
Hmm.
but I don't really think that all, like when someone's a teacher, I think a teacher has to be an actual certain way. I don't know. It's hard
Are
to
you
explain.
saying like
So no,
instead
all
of
right, all
teaching
right,
from a book, they should like life lesson?
so do you know when people say all cops are bad,
Yeah.
but in reality, there's a lot of really good cops and there's a
Hmm.
few scumbags.
Yeah.
So I feel like not everyone's made out for a cop. So I think
Agreed.
for teachers, it's the same way. Like not everyone should be a teacher because if you're just making me get a grade or letting me get a certain grade because that's how you teach, like I'm not learning anything from your class. High school and both college, I've had one class. We were speaking before this podcast. I had one class that I really learned something,
Hmm.
and I still know majority of it. I can't write it out like word for word definition wise, but if someone said a word from that class that meant something, I would know 100% just because the teacher cared about it. Teacher cared about our future, what we were learning. And I'm sure if the class was anatomy. I'm sure if someone is a doctor or whatever that took him remembers everything that he or she has learned from that class. But again, like going just to wrap my little spiel up, high school and college, good experiences and stuff like that. But when it comes down to all the money that you are putting into college, especially,
It's
not
not
much worth comes out of that. All you're getting is a degree, and then you get retrained most of the time when you find a job. You know what I mean? Like it's so confusing.
Yeah. So like, I'll give you an example, right? Police and fire, right? Like, you don't really need a college degree for either one of those. Like, I know.
Well,
like,
it's probably like preferred, but right?
Yeah, it's like preferred, but like at the same time, you're doing all these different trainings. I guess essentially, like, there are some things in certain roles you probably need some sort of certain classes, but to say, and I think again that's where college is partly broken, because they say, oh, well-rounded, you take all these art classes and stuff like that, but if you really don't want to be there, you're really not going to learn the information. Like, prime example with me, I took a class in philosophy, and it was like an old ancient philosophy. It wasn't like a more modern idea thinking. It was more like, oh, these people thought this and that. But and again, if you ask me who I learned about or what I did, I couldn't tell you, because one, the professor was boring as hell. He didn't make it interesting. He was just a boring guy, and I think personality takes a big role in teaching, right? 100%. You have to have some kind of personality. So, and I don't care what your credentials are, if you don't have a personality, if you're not willing to speak or talk and have that connection with people or whatever, not whether it's a student or a teacher or just somebody, a friend or an acquaintance or whatever it might be, you have to have some kind of personality. Now, I know some people that are in leadership roles that probably shouldn't be, or have recently just got them. And have no personality. Like, they might know that they might be really smart on that topic, but if you don't have a personality, you can't be a leader, I don't think. Like, and that's my perspective.
To go off of that real quick before we don't touch on it or forget to.
Yeah.
When you say personality and stuff like that, I think for both of us, we're not saying the teacher is a bad person, because I've met a ton of good teachers in high school and college. That's a good person. But again, like for high school, so many teachers I loved.
As a person,
yes,
yeah.
But teaching wise,
they weren't very good.
Even in high school, I think we didn't really understand so much why we were there and what our purpose was there. And then as soon as we graduated, obviously we realized. But again, just in case, let's say one of our teachers ever listen to this, it's not that we don't like the teachers. It's sometimes the way they teach isn't ideal for
everyone,
young students to be able to grasp onto it and take value out of it. Again, like
value, yeah.
Right. So if there's no value behind the teaching, and if the students and even the teachers aren't taking value away from a lecture or whatever they want to do, I feel like it's pointless, and again, waste of money.
Yeah.
And kids, everyone, like, to think about how much money people have lost and still owe is sickening. They spend most of their life paying back.
And the thing is, right, like, you're asking 18, 19, 21, 22-year-olds to go into debt, at such in your 20s, and then, oh, well, hang on, in 6 months you have to find a job and you got to start paying on your $100,000 you owe the government or owe the loan company or whoever it might be. And again, I think that's where college is partly broken, because it's so expensive and it hasn't gained more value over the years. I think many parts, I think society has brought that burden on everybody else, because, like me, for an example, I am miserable at college, doing college work, schoolwork. I dread it. It's the last thing I do at the day, right? Because if it was something I really valued, it'd be on my top priority list. It's not. Why? The reason it's not on my priority list, it's not top up there, it's because, one, I'm not passionate about it, right? Because if you want to really do something, you got to be passionate about it, right? It's like working out in the gym. I'm passionate about it. I want to get better. I want to feel better. I want to look better. I want to be healthier. It helps you live longer. There's all kinds of benefits of clearly lifting.
I feel like healthy bodies and healthy mind.
Exactly, right? Like, I think that's, your mind's a muscle, right? Your heart's a muscle. You got muscles throughout your body, clearly. So, you always got to build that up. But at the same time, like, I don't think college really shows purpose in the world. And I think you got to know what your purpose is. Like, what is your purpose? What do you think your purpose is?
So I can't really.
Or
So when you say that about a purpose, deep down, I think I have one, but for me, it's a learning.
You haven't found it yet.
process.
That's what you're saying.
And it might take me 20. Like when I tell you, it might take me a long time.
It does.
I can tell you what's important to me and stuff like that, which is fairly simple for me, and probably for a lot of people. But the purpose, that's why I think it's.
All right.
It's hard to find it, and no one really. I don't think a lot of people find it because
it's hard to find. Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, so would the better question be, what is your why? Like, what is your why? Like, why do you get up in the morning? Why do you go to the gym? Why do you do what you do? Why do you go to school? Like, you know, what is your why?
The thing is, before I get into it, I feel like my why can change, which is not really, I don't think, a good thing or a bad thing. But
I would disagree.
But for me right now, my why getting up is to build myself, build my internal dialogue to make it strong enough so that anything external can't like seep into my internal dialogue, which is a lot of mental side of it, not really much physical. Physical stuff helps, but my why is to probably end up building a bulletproof mind, which obviously for me, that's a bulletproof internal dialogue. But again, like I can build off of that and say it's for my future family, you know?
Yeah.
So I can keep going, but right now, my age, I'm gonna turn 21 this month. So yes, I can have fun, all those things, but I feel like
it's not what they make it up.
Becoming aware of your own self in that sense, where you try to learn, you know, your value. Again, value seems to be brought up a lot, but again, like that would be my why. So what would be like your why?
I think like coming with my background, knowing where I came from, knowing what the adversity that I've had to deal with at this point, I think my why and you know, I think why and purpose kind of go hand in hand a little bit, and sometimes they intertwine with each other. I think the reasons I do what I do, the business, the coaching, YouTube, you know, I guess school, I wouldn't really put that because it's just kind of a dreadful thing. I kind of felt like I got forced into in a sense because of, you know, wanting to be a cop. You know, you got to go and get this college credits or go to military. I ultimately wish I probably would have went the military route, to be honest, at the time, but I wasn't really in any physical fitness shape to go in the military. But, you know, I think my why and purpose is to want to help others find what they want to do in life, right? Because I think you can always learn from somebody no matter how old or young they are, because sometimes even the oldest people haven't gone through as much as versus some of the younger teens and kids, right? Because you don't know somebody meet what kind of day they had, right? And this kind of goes back into law enforcement, right? You know, you see all these people like, oh, why did they do what they do, right? You don't know what they saw that day, where they've been, the obstacles they had to go through, the people that died that were important to them, right? Those types of things, I think, ultimately shape your character and build that bulletproof mindset, right? Yeah. You know, you got the internal and external, I guess, forces, right? That are, I guess, they build your self-esteem. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but I guess, like, you got to find the reason that you get up in the morning, right? The reason you don't sleep past your alarm, right? The reason you get up early, what drives you to get through the day and get you up for the next morning, right? And I think a lot of times that school doesn't really teach you that reason why. And I think you got good, or no, you got average and great. Like that's really what you got. Like, you're either average, you're the 95% of the world, or you're that top 5%, really that top 1%, but that other 4% is the 4% of people that are trying to be that 1%, right? So I guess you can call it the 95-4-1 rule, essentially. Like, you got 95% average. Like, most people are average, right? They're just always going to be average. They're never going to find their purpose. They're going to live their shitty lives and their shitty 9 to 5 because they listen to somebody. And like, I'm not saying you should listen to people, But you should only take so much advice from people before you got to take action, right? Action's a big word that I like to use. You got to take action.
With that, you learn a lot and you fail a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think the greatest learning tool is failure, right?
100%.
I don't think failure is a bad thing, right? I think school teaches this, right? I think school teaches you that failure is a bad thing, and that's where, again, school is wrong, right? That's where school loses its value, right? You take any business in the world, Amazon, Apple, VidTech, Western Digital, Xbox, PlayStation, NFL, like whatever it might be, right? These companies, right? Along their lines, they've had their failures, right? Walt Disney, right? I have a quote, Walt Disney, that says, "I've heard there's going to be a recession. I decided not to be a part of it," right? I like that quote in a sense of like talking from a poverty mindset, right? Like everybody's always in poverty, and I decided not to be part of it, right? Walt Disney, prime example. I've watched movies on him. I watched documentaries on him. Very fascinating guy. The way he transformed the animation industry into the theme park world. One of my favorite entrepreneurs of all time by far had some of the most failures, right? They had people that told him it wouldn't work. They told him this will never work. A mouse or whatever that I saw as a character will never work. He went bankrupt, I think 3 or 4 times. He started in his garage, right? Microsoft started in the garage. Apple started in the garage. Facebook started in the dorm room, right? But along those lines, they've had people that tell them, "Oh, this won't work. Oh, we don't want to invest in this because we don't understand this," right? And I think ultimate times, like, people don't understand the value, and you have to have those failures, right? So a no is a failure in a sense, but you learn from it, right? Having an interview with somebody, but they tell you no, right? You just gained value. Yeah, you might have failed because you didn't get that pitch that you wanted or the money you wanted for that, for whatever you're trying to accomplish. But that failure is great because that's how you learn, right? That action, you just took action and you failed. Great, wonderful. It sucks, but sometimes that failure is what you need to get better, right? Sometimes that failure should drive you to get better, right? And that's where school is broken, right? You fail on your test. Oh, I was sorry. You're no good. This person's smarter than you. You're just a stupid kid, right? Like, that's basically what it tells you.
Yeah, isn't it?
And it fucks with your self-esteem. It fucks with a kid's self-esteem when they fail. They might be smart, right? You might be sitting to the next Steve Jobs. You might be sitting to the next Bill Gates. You might be sitting to the next Jeff Bezos. You don't know, right? And I think ultimate times that school doesn't bring enough value to teach people and really kids, because that's mainly who's in school. These teachers don't always teach value that they should, whether it's college or high school or elementary school or middle school. They don't teach value for these students to understand, hey, you never know who you're sitting next to. They might be your next best friend and the next millionaire that you might want to be friends with and take part in their journey.
So let me ask you a question. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, like, for high school and college, that the system should dumb it down, if that makes sense? You know what I mean? Like, I feel that schools, teachers try to overcomplicate things, all these different steps
they should simplify.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know how the military and stuff, how it's so straightforward that anyone can understand it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like
and be great.
Like homework and studying stuff should be so simple, but
well, I think homework should ultimately be gone, but that's just my thought. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's so simplified, right?
Yeah, like
the military simplifies things.
If you want to be something, let's say anything you want to be, whatever it may be, and you have to take certain classes that ultimately like you won't ever need it. How you need general education. Some of the stuff I feel
like fucking art 101.
So once you know what you want to do in high school, right, or even college, it's so tough because
I don't think you ever really know what you want to do in life. It's like every couple of years, it's like, oh, I want to get into that now because I want to do that, right? Like I didn't think I'd be doing eBay. Like, you asked me in freshman year of high school, would you be selling on eBay in 5 years? I'd be like, nope. Don't even know what that is. Sorry. Is that where old people buy stuff? I'm like, yep. Sorry. Right. But like going back to what you're saying, like simplifying. Yeah. School should be more simplified. Right. I think there's too many complex classes in the sense that school doesn't allow you to express yourself. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Right. Like, there should be a lot more opportunities in school that they don't teach you. And I think oftentimes the teachers themselves don't understand that, and they don't really, they think that, oh, you're a kid, so I'm not really going to listen to what you think because you don't know what you're talking about, right? I think that's the problem and the misconception that we have in our society, that adults don't listen to kids when kids are trying to live their lives, right? The guy that we were talking about, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he talks in an interview about him seeing a 6-year-old boy and his mom tells him not to jump over the puddle, right? But that kid now wants to experiment. Oh, well, what's it like jumping in a puddle, right? What's it feel like? What's it taste like? What's it smell like? Like those senses that you get shape who you are, right? Those actions that you do and take shape who you are, right? So he talks about that. Well, as a scientist, an entrepreneur is just a kid that never lost their creativity, right? Or it's something like that. That it's a person that never lost their inner child, right? And I think that's true. Like, I think school often teaches you to lose your inner child because it teaches you to confine to these ramifications of like a square block. Like, this is all you're going to be. This is all you're ever going to be. And you're not going to be no more than that, right? You're not going to be able to succeed. You'll never run your own business. You'll never be able to be a millionaire. You'll never do these things. You'll never make the NFL. You'll never make the MLB. You'll never make the Olympic soccer team, whatever it might be, right? I think school and people around you in society tell you that, right? Because we live in a negative world. We feed off of negativity. And I think oftentimes, like, people always tell you what you can't do. They'll never tell you what you can do, right? And very few people will tell you what you can do.
Isn't it crazy when you said like the box, right? Whenever I was in high school and someone said, oh, they dropped out or they weren't going to high school anymore or something, didn't it feel like you felt like that was crazy for them not to? At the time for me, I thought at the time in high school, I thought high school and college, and that's how you're supposed to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
And so when someone wasn't going to high school, I said, that's so stupid of them. Why would they do that? I wasn't saying like...
But you never really understood the why.
I wouldn't think that they're a bad person. It's just like...
Well, I think society does that. I think society does that to you, right? Society does you to live in this box, like, hey, you got to go to school, you got to go to high school, you have to graduate, you have to go to college, right? And I think if you are 16 years old, you know what you want to do, you should do it. If it means giving up school and because you're building a multi-million-dollar business, then you should go do that, right?
Yeah.
And I know this is probably bad from the sense of coaching and telling a kid, hey, you should drop out. But at the same time, I feel like if a kid's passionate in what they want to do, and they really want to express that, and they have a true passion for it, you need money. Money isn't everything, but in reality, you need money to do stuff, right? Bottom line, try not having it. It fucking sucks, right? You need money. It gives you security. It gives you security to have the freedom that you want in the life you want to choose to live, right? If you want to make 150,000, you'll make 150,000. If you want to make $1 million, you'll learn to make $1 million. If you want to make 10 million, you'll learn to make 10 million. You will find a way to do it. Will it take longer than some than others? Yes, 100%. Did Charli D'Amelio become famous overnight? Pretty fucking much, right? Like, she's only 17 and she's a multimillionaire now. Yeah, wonderful. That's reality that we live in, right? It might take some people longer to make that kind of wealth, right? But that's okay too, right? Because you got to work hard, right? There's an equation, I forget, I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. It's like effort times time equals result or something like that. Like the amount of effort you put in plus hard work plus time will equal the result, right? So effort, time, result, like all that kind of thing kind of go hand in hand, right? And the hard work, right? You need to work hard at what you want to do, but you also got to be passionate about it, right? Like, I would be like, if I had a kid and he told me at 15 years old, hey dad, I want to start my own business. I'm going to start now. And if it takes off in 2 years, I want to drop out of high school. I'd say, okay, cool. I will support you. And if you can live and make successful and you're happy, I will be all right with you dropping out.
Yeah.
And I think school, going back to what you said about dropouts and going to night school and stuff like that, society teaches you that, hey, you should hate those people because, they're stupid or they're dumb or they're ignorant or they're dumb. They don't know what they're doing. They're not intelligent. They'll never be like, they're deadbeat, right? I think oftentimes that what we don't understand, and I've watched some entrepreneurs that are 20 years old now that dropped out of school and they're driving Lamborghinis, Maseratis, Ferraris, and all their teachers aren't driving those, right? They told them that to be failures, right? Because they dropped out. And those kids are laughing in their face because, I dropped out. Yeah, maybe they went back and got their GED because they felt like they needed to do that. And that's fine too, right? But some of them will never go back and they're all right with that. Like, I think some of the most successful people in the world are high school and college dropouts.
Yeah.
And that's okay, And I think that in society, we oftentimes don't allow those things to happen, and we should. Like, we need to change this mindset in society, the way we think and do things, right?
Yeah.
But I think ultimately I wouldn't be in college if I felt this way when I was 15 or 16 or 17. I just started thinking that way at 18 and 19. And now 21, 3 years later, I'm thinking this way. When essentially I feel like I'm in a box. I'm stuck in a box because if I don't go to college, I got to start paying $600 a month, and I don't want to do that right now. I'm not in a predicament where I can do that, right? And live comfortably. But so you kind of just suck it up a little bit, and I guess that's okay because you're working on your end goal, and that's okay.
So, like, I know we might wrap this up soon.
Yeah.
But so what do you think? I know your answer is not going to be right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more of an opinion-based type of question that anyone can be open-minded to, because honestly, the system of like school, based off what our whole podcast has been about, education, I know there's a lot of flaws in it. A lot of people understand there's probably flaws in it, and there's probably people that don't think there's any flaws in it. Mm-hmm. What do you think or recommend the actions that all the people in control with education should take? You know what I mean? Like, the people that kind of say how to do it, what should they change what they're doing? Obviously, we think high school and college right now.
Yeah. Do you want my honest opinion?
Yeah.
Okay. Something I'm recently doing is reading more books, which is unheard of because I don't ever read books. I've never read books in my life because a lot of the books that I read in high school, I hated, didn't understand, and I don't remember what I learned. Recently, I went on vacation and started reading a book. I usually listen to books, but I was like, oh, hey, I'll have a lot of time fishing and drinking a beer. Let me read a book while I'm doing both those things. And it was great because I learned a lot. I learned more from that one book than I learned after spending $50,000 in college, right? I think what needs to be done is that we need to understand that, hey, there are other forms of learning, right? You got podcasts, you got audiobooks, you got the old-fashioned reading a book, but I think we need to teach from other people's experiences, right? I think that's where college is mixed up. Like, these teachers that are teaching these things in college oftentimes are teaching from a book and never lived the experience, right? Yeah. They never started their own business, so they can't really teach, right? They wanted to be a teacher and they're teaching from a book. They have no life experience. And I think ultimate times that is where college is broken, right? When I went to college, the best teachers were the adjuncts. Why were they? Because they were actually living the life that they were teaching, right? A lot of them were cops when I was going for criminal justice. So they were giving life experience on top of the bullshit that they didn't really want to teach, but it's part of the book. I've even had some of them say it to me. They're like, look, guys, I get it. It's dreadful, but hey, I have to teach this. Some of it's true. Most of it's not, kind of thing. But I think what needs to change is the way we teach students to learn, right?
Okay.
We need to teach them to be more creative. I don't think there's enough creativity. I think we need to give them more opportunities, right? You miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take, right? But if they're not given to you, you'll never learn. I think anybody who comes from any background, I don't care if it's from the streets of Camden, the riches of Beverly Hills, like wherever you come from, I think you're in control of your destiny, right? You make your choices. You have to take self-accountability for your actions. There are going to be people in your ear telling you, hey, go sell drugs on the street, right? Go do this, go do all these bad things. But in reality, you have to control your right choices. You get to choose your friends, right? You can say, hey, sorry, I don't want to be part of this life. I don't want to be with you. We're not going to be friends anymore. If I don't like something someone was doing that was in my inner circle, yeah, I would tell them no, right?
Yeah.
There's a saying that goes, you're the top, you make the income of the 10 people you really put yourself around, right? And I guess that's kind of true in a sense, right? Because once you become average of that group, you want to find the next group to go to, right? That's what you want to do. Like, that's your ultimate goal. Like, once I feel average of everybody else, I'm looking for the next group to be a part of. I want to go back to the bottom of the totem pole and work my way up, right? That's where you learn, right? Every good business starts at the bottom of the totem pole. They work their way up, right? That's how the Ring doorbell company started. That's how Amazon started. That's how Microsoft started, eBay, PayPal, vice versa, right? But I think creativity is one of the biggest things, and I think school doesn't ultimately teach you that. And experience, right? You have to get experiences. You have to try new things, right? I think ultimately, I wish I would have tried more clubs in high school because I don't know where that would have led me. But again, you're forced to go to high school. So if I had to go that route, I'd say I wish I would have done more things in high school. I wish I would have did more streaming and video editing of gaming, but I think ultimately it came with because I didn't understand how to make the money to do that or get the money to do those things because the environment that came from. I think that sometimes, and this is again where school goes wrong. They don't teach you how to get out of the situation you're in. They give you handouts, right? Oh, we're gonna give you participation trophies. We're gonna help you. Oh, you're poor. We're gonna give you all this. This food. That's great, but it doesn't change the situation because at the end of the day, you're gonna go home to that same shitty environment, right? Environment is key. In the book I recently read, by James Clear, Atomic Habits, it talks about environment. It talks about how to build habits. You got to start with little baby steps, right? So you have a goal, right? You want to run 10 miles. Do you just go running 10 miles? No. You won't be able. I mean, you could go 10 miles, but you're not going to run 10 miles. I mean, you're gonna,
and you'll be all banged up and all.
Yeah, you're going to be banged up. You're going to be sore. You're going to say, "I'm never going to do this again." Right? You're going to try it one time and say, "Oh, sorry, it's not for me." Right? But how do you do that? You start with 1 mile, right? Or you start with a quarter mile. You start with a half mile. You run a half a mile, you jog a half a mile, right? And then that's 1 mile. Cool. You punched it in the clock for the day, right? Then, next week you're like, hey, I'm going to go 1.5 miles now. All right, cool. Baby steps, right? We're gradually getting up to that 10 mile mark because you just want to go for distance right now. You're not really caring about the time, right? That's kind of where I'm at right now. I want to go the distance. I don't want to go really so much the time unless I really need to, right? I think that you have to build those steps in order to be successful. I don't think school teaches that, right? They don't teach you how to build good habits. They don't teach you how to have an unstoppable mindset, right? They don't teach you how to they teach you to stop and rest in the middle and not finish your way through, right? Kobe Bryant talks about rest at the end, not in the middle, right? I think school teaches you the opposite. They teach you to, sorry, here, we're gonna pass you through. Here's your participation trophy. I think participation trophies are fucking stupid.
Yeah,
they're fucking stupid because and there's actual science proven behind this. I think Simon Sinek did a video on it. Simon Sinek read his book, Start With Why, a very good book too. Participation trophies devalue the first place trophy. The reason it does that is because you have this gratification that you need to get this, and if you don't, you're gonna cry. Now, not only that, you get upset because you just did all that hard work for first place and everybody else is getting a trophy. How is that fair? It's not, right? It's not fair. Now, life isn't fair. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, it devalues everything. And I think school doesn't bring a lot of value like it should. That's kind of my take on that.
Yeah.
How do you want to wrap up? What do you got to say?
One, good to kind of be back. It's always good to talk about subjects like this. I mean, the thing is, you never not take anything away from it. You all there's always something that you take away,
good or bad. Even
just talking to someone that you personally know, you still take away from it. You learn more about the subject at hand. You're talking about something, you're learning how to use your, the way you structure your sentences. I know I say like a lot. I'm sure you talking like this. I'm saying like a lot, obviously helps. And talking about education, which is pretty much at the root of everyone's, life, is obviously nice to talk about. But yeah, that's it. I really think that things should be changed and tweaked. I'm not 100% sure how, but at the end of the day, if you go to college, you're in debt, you get to pay it off, yada, 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 and you're okay living that way, then I say it's okay. It's fine. But for the people that want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people, I don't really think education how it is now David Goggins to me is something else. And Conor McGregor, I know it's just like
Conor McGregor. That's one of my favorite athletes.
Like I get it, the hype train, whatever. Oh, like he's not overrated, underrated, whatever the case may be with Conor.
He's underrated.
The way he speaks and his mind is amazing. Like when I say amazing, when I listen to him,
he has a great story too.
A beautiful story, and the way he carries himself, I feel, is the way you should carry yourself through life.
He's like, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm going to do what I want, and that's true. Like I don't give a fuck what you think about me. We're gonna go at it, right? We're gonna go 15 rounds in the fucking. In his upcoming, though, he was a little bit of an asshole type. Oh, I agree.
Once he started to grow with age and experience, I feel that he really is hitting the nail on the head right now with how you should approach life, how much you have to build your mind and everything like that. He has a beautiful business, beautiful family, all this money, probably one of the best fighters in the UFC, most electric person. I've ever.
Your mind's a muscle just like your heart is, right? You've got to mentally train it. How do you mentally train it? Listening to podcasts, reading books, going and talking to other people, right? Like that's how you grow your mind. Your mind is a muscle that never stops learning, right? And at the moment you learn, the moment is the moment you die, right? Most people live to 75, but they die at 30. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like they stop learning at 30. They live their shitty lives and their shitty job and hate their life, and they hate other people. They hate other people because of the success other people have had, right? And that's how you know somebody has died, right? And I guess technically they can come back to life. Maybe they learn in 20 years, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't live this way, right? We're getting a little longer here because we're just rapid firing different things off, different stories. And the last story I have is going back to that. There was a guy that lived in a village, and I heard this in a different podcast. He's like 80 years old, and he said somebody asked him, how do you want to end your life? He said, I want to end it happy and inspire others not to live a shitty, miserable life. And the story pretty much wrapped up like that. He lived a miserable life. He had a miserable job. He didn't have any family. He was always bringing other people down, right? And he was like 80 years old. And then he said, you know what? Like my end goal here, before I die, I want to tell people not to live a shitty, miserable life and learn from my mistakes. At the end of the day, you have to take action. You have to build your mind. You have to build a bulletproof mindset, like you said, right? You have to be uncommon amongst uncommon people, right? You have to set those standards higher. When you reach a standard, you have to set it, right? When I reached 1,000 subscribers, I set it to 1,300. Now I'm at over 1,300. It was at 2,000. Now I'm over 2,000. Now it's 250,000. Right, I wrote that down. I think I have it somewhere here.
250,000 is what he said.
What did I say? I have it written down here. I'm sorry, 100,000. 250,000 TikTok followers, because that's easier to gain followers on there.
How much do you have?
How many do I have now?
On TikTok?
Just under 1,200. Okay. But the rapid growth on there is stupid and way easier than YouTube is. So, but again, like that's just metrics, and you shouldn't always get into the followers, but that's a different story in itself. But anyway, I think this is a really good podcast. I think we hit home on a lot of stuff. I'm excited to go through, edit some things out to post on different social media sites. Because again, this is probably, I don't know, at least a half hour long, I think.
Yeah. It's like, but again, it's almost an hour.
I talked about my last video. I don't know if Darren watched a whole bunch of it or any of it really. I talked about like what this podcast is going to bring. It's going to bring controversial topics. It's going to bring stuff in business. It's going to bring stuff in coaching. It's going to bring stuff in gaming. We're going to talk about all kinds of different topics. And sometimes we're going to talk about something in gaming, but it's going to go into motivation. Like they're just going to intertwine with each other.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately like where we're trying to go. We were at lunch the other day. We were sitting down. He's like, where are you trying to take your channel? I'm like, I want to build and document a life of showing people that you might have fucked up at something, you might have did something wrong, but you can learn from your mistakes and take action. You might have come from the shitty environments. You might have had shitty parents or lived in shitty environments your life. You might have not come from anything and you want to be something, you can do that, right? Like that is what we're trying to build here, right? That's what this podcast is all about. Right, this video podcast / audio, if depending on where you're listening to or whatever, that's what we're trying to build here, right? We're trying to build that bulletproof mindset to not give a fuck and just go fucking tackle what you want to do in life. Like that's what we want to do. All right. So guys, thank you so much for listening and watching wherever you might be. Again, it was a great video. We hope to see you next time. We'd love to hear your questions. So if you have questions about anything that we talked about in this video or any topics you would like us to do, we would definitely love to hear it in the comment section below, or you can reach out at other social media platforms. Heartless Gamer, just kind of look it up, look for an HD emblem. It's like green and black. That's me. There's another one on YouTube. They have 10,000 subscribers. That's not me, but again, I'm the better one. So just check it out. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and I think that's it, and Instagram.
Yeah, just worry about his for now. I'm not really there yet. Not really.
Well, I mean, we're working it together. We're a team here. So
thank you
again, guys. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you guys next time. We are out of here.
Peace.
Signing off, guys.